Every winter, war leaves behind the same strange contradiction. Men survive nights that should have killed them. No fires, no stoves, no fuel worth mentioning. Diaries, after-action reports, and forgotten field manuals all circle the same quiet truth tents that felt warmer than logic allowed. This wasn't luck, and it wasn't toughness. It was learned knowledge, paid for in frostbite, trench foot, and broken units. Armies that failed to understand cold lost men without firing a shot. Armies that learned turned thin canvas into a weapon against winter. Today, most people assume warmth begins with flame. History proves the opposite, and that's what we're breaking down right now. Before we go any further, if you value real, field-tested history instead of romantic myths, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who still thinks survival is about gadgets, drop a comment, and subscribe to Warfront Survival. This channel exists to preserve the knowledge that kept men alive when comfort wasn't an option. Now, let's get into it. Zero-fuel heating mattered because, well, fire could get you killed. On the Eastern Front, smoke and glow meant artillery. In guerrilla wars from Indochina to the Balkans, even the smell of burning wood could bring patrols. Fuel was heavy, scarce, and often impossible to move forward. Commanders didn't ask how to stay warm. They asked how to avoid freezing while remaining invisible. That constraint, you know, changed everything. Heat stopped being something you produced and became something you controlled. Once you understand that shift, a tent stops being shelter and becomes a heat management system. A tent was never meant to make heat, only to slow its escape. Soldiers learned quickly that air volume was the enemy. High, roomy tents felt colder than low, cramped ones because body heat rose, spread and vanished. Winter tents sagged low, hugged the ground, and sometimes looked half collapsed by design. The goal wasn't posture or comfort, it was containment. Field reports from mountain units repeatedly note that lowering ridge lines, banking snow against tent walls, or pitching in shallow depressions raised internal temperatures without adding anything at all. The tent didn't change. The physics did. The ground beneath you mattered more than the fabric above you. Cold ground drains heat faster than cold air ever will. This was understood long before it was explained scientifically. Roman legionaries layered brush under sleeping areas. Napoleonic troops tore doors and shutters from villages, not to burn them, but to sleep on them. 20th century soldiers used straw, reeds, pine boughs, folded uniforms, or spare packs to create separation from frozen earth. The principle never changed. Anything that trapped dead air beneath the body slowed heat loss. You know, veterans learned fast that a badly pitched tent with excellent ground insulation was actually warmer than a perfect tent laid directly on frozen soil. Human heat was treated as a shared resource, not just a personal comfort. This is honestly one of the least discussed realities of winter warfare. Men slept close because it really changed survival odds. Accounts from the Winter War and the Ardennes describe deliberate placement inside shelters with injured or exhausted men positioned centrally, where heat retention was highest. This wasn't just huddling. Layout mattered. Bodies placed along tent walls reduced cold spots and convection currents. Gear stacked at entrances blocked drafts. Over time, experienced units developed unspoken internal arrangements that stabilized shelter temperatures. No fuel was added. Heat already present was simply organized. Moisture was the silent killer of zero-fuel heating. Wet fabric conducts heat away rapidly, and condensation inside tents could undo every other advantage. Historical manuals stressed ventilation even in extreme cold, not for comfort, but survival. Small vents prevented frost buildup that later melted and soaked bedding. Units that sealed tents completely often woke colder than those that allowed controlled airflow. The lesson was learned the hard way. Warmth depended on dryness more than temperature. A slightly colder but dry tent consistently outperformed a warmer, damp one. Snow and earth were allies, not obstacles. Snow, when packed correctly, acts as an insulator. Soldiers across multiple wars banked snow around tent bases to stabilize internal temperatures, not just block wind. Earth worked the same way. Tents pitched against embankments or partially dug into slopes reduced exposed surface area and, benefited from ground temperatures often warmer than night air. This wasn't bunker building. It was subtle terrain integration. Even shallow earth contact reduced heat loss dramatically, a fact confirmed again and again in winter campaigns. The historical record is clear. At Chosin Reservoir, Marines reported tents staying above freezing despite brutal external temperatures without stoves. In Finland, ski troops survived weeks without fires using low-profile shelters, snowbanking and shared heat systems. In the mountains of Afghanistan, fighters relied on earth-integrated tents and human heat management to stay hidden and operational. These weren't miracles. They were systems refined under pressure. This knowledge matters because systems fail and principles endure. Cheap fuel, modern fabrics and heaters made heat discipline seem obsolete. Training shifted toward equipment dependence. As a result, many people today know how to light a stove, but not how to stay warm when it fails. History shows that when everything else is gone, understanding heat still works. If this kind of hard-earned knowledge matters to you, subscribe to Warfront Survival, share this with someone who thinks warmth starts with a flame, and keep these lessons alive. History doesn't just tell us what happened, it teaches us what still works when everything else is stripped away.